Submitter 15, the Wairau District Council Economic Development Team. They have asked for Council to contribute funds to research the decline of dairy in the Wairau area. Sorry, Councillor, page 20 of the agenda. Mr Skirman, our Economic Development Manager, has had meetings up there with the Wairau Economic Development Team and others. And look, as part of the 0.2% economic development rate increase that you approved as part of the draft annual plan, part of that was to go towards Wairau primary sector opportunities, and in his view, an analysis of the opportunities and challenges for Wairau's primary sector will cover off what the Wairau District Council Economic Development Team are hoping for. So the recommendation here would be we accept their request but make no change to the annual plan, because in fact there's already budget provision for it.
Sorry? You move, I'll second it. I was going to move, but that's fine.
With that bit on the end? You said because there is already provision for it.
Well, there's a commitment being made by our economic development people to look at understanding the opportunities and challenges, including, we could be specific and say including the decline of dairying in the Wairau area, but it wouldn't be solely a report on that.
I'm just saying, tack that on the end of the resolution.
Well, I think that's what you did move, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
As long as that is included. Actually,
that's what I thought I seconded. Yeah. So it comes out of existing provision. Further discussion? You wish to speak?
No, I think it's all been pretty much said. But that's fine.
I'm happy not to speak. Any other speakers? Councillor Barker.
I just want to say I agree with this. Funded out of existing provisions. Very good policy. I think we should do it more often.
Point taken. I'll put the motion then. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Carried. Upstream Wairau Incorporated, page 21, which we've basically established is covered anyway with existing.
May not be next financial year entirely, but I think we can make a start next financial year.
They want it over 2 financial years anyway. Yep. So, is there no change to the annual plan, and we continue to do the work with the Wairau District Council or something to that effect, or what would be a suitable?
Sure. We certainly need to meet with Wairau District Council, but whether or not, I assume we need to meet with Upstream Wairau as well as, and just agree a protocol.
So it's no change to the annual plan, and we continue discussions with the people of Wairau.
Yep. That's fine.
You're happy to move that?
I'm happy to move that. I just think this is a really good move where we say no change, but we explain to people what we're doing. In fact, what you're saying, Mike, is we're doing it as requested in our normal work.
Yep.
Very good.
So you've moved that. I'm happy to second that one as well. Further discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Pure Hawke's Bay.
Right. Thanks, Mr Chairman. Look, again, it's a pity Tom's not able to be here today to actually answer some of these, but this, again, no problem here with looking at this as part of the increase that you've already approved for the economic development initiatives of Council. So, in other words, with it in existing newly approved budgets for 14-15.
Excuse me. Is there a question, and it probably is more for Mr Skirman, other outcomes that we could achieve with such a study, i.e. Exploiting the Hawke's Bay opportunity as much as anything? I mean, we're already GE free as we stand today. This is all about marketing. It's not about regulation. So It's really a question for him, and perhaps it's
Yeah.
something he can bring back to council.
I was just going to say, can I suggest that perhaps, if you go ahead and approve this, that he be asked to bring to you at the next corporate and strategic meeting, or the next available one, we talked about the proposed scope of the study and some of these other conditions that he's suggested your decision would be subject to. So initially the proposed scope of the study, have a talk about that, incorporate your points in that discussion.
Councillor Barker.
My concern about this is that it's just a narrow perspective we're reacting to someone poking and pushing us, and I'm not really comfortable about that. Not saying I'm opposed to GM being GM free, but what I would like us to do, if we're going to have a look at this issue of positioning Hawke's Bay, why don't we look at the issue, include in the basket of things we look at, Appalachian Hawke's Bay? Why don't we look at a whole range of other things about Hawke's Bay? What are we doing? And all we're doing is reacting to one line, and I don't agree with that. So because someone's had the initiative, made the jump on it, I don't think we should resort to that. So I'm going to vote against this.
Well, you could test it and vote to no change to the plan.
I'll vote no change to the plan.
And a seconder for that, Councillor Hewitt. You wish to speak further, Councillor Barker?
I just wish to say that I like the notion of marketing Hawke's Bay. I think that's what we should be doing as the regional council. We are the only regional entity we've got. We should be doing that, but I don't want it to be just simply this issue. I'd like us to have a look at a range of issues and give strategy policy some time to think about it and come back with what they think is be a good scope of work for us to look at what we could do as a council about Hawke's Bay and include all of the options into it so we get some thinking on it.
Councillor Hewitt, you wish to speak?
Yes. There's a whole lot of responses to branding, positive and negative, but you take GE-free, transgenic, cisgenic, and you get a whole lot of Frankenstein ideas if it's put up in the right package. But I think the real test to GE is genetic engineering is when it is against a few things. First of all, your livelihood, and if you have the opportunity to have drought-proof grass, for instance, well, there's a whole another discussion that I wouldn't like to see ruled out. It has the potential, science has the potential to offer solutions to environmental issues. We're facing some huge challenges in our plan change, and I'd hate to see the option of GE ruling out some of those mitigation factors that we have the ability to. If you look a little bit further around the globe and where there's no fish left in the Baltic Sea, well, I'm sure people there wouldn't rule out genetic engineering if they could get fish back in it. So when you're faced with hunger, you look at this question a little more deeply than just pure branding. And the other one is in a medical context. If you or one of your loved ones is very, very ill, then I think that's the real test of whether you choose to be involved in genetic engineering or not. I strongly agree that the real test is in 100 years' time, and I hope we make the right decision. But at this time in our region, I'd be very opposed to taking that toolbox kit away, item out of our toolbox, in terms of future-proofing our region and solely for the benefit of a few individuals who are there on a commercial exercise.
Councillor Graham.
I quite like the recommendation that the council considers the submission, just as is. I mean, these people, Councillor Barker's correct, of course, it's just one part of the Appalachian concept of what we're going to try and do to Hawke's Bay and a brand, but it's a pretty big part. And I admire these people for stepping forward. I don't think they're fixated on this in the long term. I mean, and I've had discussions with them on that. It is essentially a marketing tool at the moment, may say for the next decade or 2 decades. Whether we would say we would give them half that project, I'm not sure about that. But I'm a very strong supporter of what they're trying to achieve here. So I would like council to, I quite liked our Chief Executive's analysis at the beginning, second time, this is really step forwards, and I quite like that analysis of that we consider it, and if staff think it's appropriate, then we can add it into existing budgets if that's deemed it comes back to us. But I wouldn't want to throw it out.
I'll take a quick opportunity to speak. We're actually not throwing it out. What we're saying is we're not accepting it today because there's no change to the annual plan, but that doesn't mean the conversation stops with those guys. But that's what's been moved and seconded. There's a few hands up. I'll start down this end. Councillor Dick.
Yeah, well, I support the mover and the seconder, and I don't go with the notion that we'll fit it in if we can afford to do so. In fact, I think we're already running the risk of overcommitting the economic development budget, and I think there's a point of principle here. Either you support a branding exercise based on GM free, or you don't, and personally at this stage I don't.
Mr. Chairman, I do support the motion, and I feel that once you go down the road of agreeing that you're going to research the benefits of positioning a region that way, then you are actually speaking in favour of positioning the region that way. The economic benefits as a region, as against individual exporters positioning themselves, has actually already been done. It's done very extensively by Professor John Knight of Otago University, and you can access the results of that very easily. So the research is already there. I don't think there's any point in duplicating it to see if you could get a different result. But the main thing is there is nothing to stop. There is no genetic crops here at the moment, and there is no way anybody is welcome to brand their product GE-free. In fact, we heard evidence that that's exactly what they are doing, and they are being able to get that economic market advantage, and that's up to the individual exporters to take advantage of that, and so to do so. So I think sometime in the future there is absolutely no doubt that this world is going to have to embrace the technology of genetic modification in ways of meeting energy, water, pesticide, nitrogen use. Currently research is being undertaken in John Innes Institute of Science in England to genetically modify plants to fix nitrogen so that less fertiliser is used. Maybe that's how we can meet the proposed limits that have been drafted in the decision of Plan Change 6. But certainly in the future, I think the world is going to have to embrace this fairly carefully. So I can't see any point in duplicating research at this moment as a branding exercise.
Other speakers, Councillor Piper.
There's a whole body of research that's been done on both the benefits and also the risks with regards to GM-free branding for a region, and I think that's a whole discussion that needs to be had at some stage. I think at this particular stage we're just looking at that request for $12,500, and I'd have to support the recommendation as it stands.
Yeah, I can't support the resolution because I would like to support this group in what they're proposing to do. Production in this country is currently GE-free, and it's likely to stay that way for a considerable period of time because most producer organisations are in support of that status. I note that the people who made the submissions to us are all organic producers, and they are able to command significant premiums in world markets for what they do, and I completely understand why they want to investigate the further opportunities of the branding proposal that they've put in front of us. I also at the same time acknowledge that it's important for our science community to keep up with the science on genetic modification, because at some point in the future it's going to happen. It's going to be driven by health needs, as I think one or two others at the table have already alluded to, and it's because of the health benefits that one might gain from GE foods or GE products more generally, that it will gain in time public acceptance, but we haven't got to that point yet, and therefore this differentiation and the desirability of Hawke's Bay being GE free are currently quite clear, which is why I'd be happy to support this submission that was put in front of us.
Councillor Balfour.
I also support the submission. To characterise the proponents of this as a handful of individuals is interesting. I would submit that the Ruatanifa Dam, if it had as broad a support from the ag sector as this group has for its proposition, the dam would probably be further along than it is. But be that as it may, this is not a debate over whether GE-free research should be conducted someplace on the planet. It's probably reflects a feeling on the part of the people who put it forward that not here, not on our ground. And they were quite clear in their presentation as to what the limits were that they were referring to. They're not concerned about medical research, et cetera, et cetera. That's all red herring stuff. So the issue here is really some of the most successful agricultural business people in our district have come to a collective view that this is the way to maximize economic potential in our region, and are looking for some support to help bolster the case which they feel they either know intuitively or from their own profit and loss sheets, and to do that in a more systematic way. And I don't see anything particularly threatening about that. And moreover, if it can be funded through monies already identified for purposes of looking at economic development opportunities in Hawke's Bay, then all more to the good. So on that basis, I support the submission.
And don't support the recommendation.
Not support the recommendation.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I think everyone's spoken. The mover, do you wish to speak further?
Can I just make 2 points about this? Firstly, I'm not passing judgment on whether or not the GE-free people are good, bad, right or wrong. I'm not doing that. My instincts would have got a view on that, but I don't want to get that in the debate. What my resolution is attempting to do is to say this is a strategic issue we need to pursue. How are we going to market, or our role in marketing Hawke's Bay? And I don't want it to be on a single element. The fact that they're good people, we like them, all the rest of it, is important. If we didn't like them, we didn't think anything of them, we'd simply discard their proposal. But I do think we need to have a clear picture. We cannot have a variety of means by which we market the Bay. And I think there are other competing issues out there, such as Appalachian Hawke's Bay. There's other things we could do, and I want us to have a clear look at what the range is and make then a clear choice, a strategic choice, and say this is what we're going to do as a regional council for marketing, improving, and enhancing the image of Hawke's Bay. If the choice comes down, we're going to do the GE-free thing because they're good people and they're compelling, that's great. But I want that to be a conscious, clear decision, and I don't want it to be on the basis of simply because this group have turned up and poked us first. I think we've got to think about the issues more deeply. So that's my view.
Thank you. It's been a good debate. I'll put that motion and all those in favour, and just be clear that we're voting to no change to the annual plan. Please say aye.
Aye.
And decline the request, yeah. Yeah. And against? Okay, carried.